On today's show, we'll look at the state of the Ottawa Senators with our friend Jack Richardson.
I'm Jake Sanderson.
I'm Tim Stützle, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
You're Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome. You are locked on to the Ottawa Senators. I'm Ross Levitan alongside Jack Richardson, our good friend Brandon Piller, enjoying the sun of Costa Rica for his honeymoon. Today is Monday, July 6th. And Jack, a couple things have changed since the last time we spoke.
Just a little bit, man. Just a little bit. It has been a whirlwind, as you guys know. I've been not sitting on the sidelines, but I've been, soaking it all in, talking to everyone I know. I'm in Ottawa now. I'm getting a vibe from everyone I see, basically, who wants to talk about the Sens, like what they're up to. It's been crazy and lots to talk about.
Where were you when Brady Tkachuk was traded?
I was just at home. Just in my new place and kind of, it was a Sunday afternoon. I think, I don't know if anyone else is into the House of the Dragon show that's out there. It was, I think, right before that first episode. So I was literally just relaxing on a Sunday. And then our lives changed. If that's dramatic, then call me crazy. But that's a monumental thing that came absolutely out of the blue. No idea that was going to happen that day. So yeah, it's been crazy since then.
No, I think it's fair to say. I mean, you and I both bought Brady Tkachuk jerseys the second that the 2Ds dropped in 2020, right before the draft. And 6 years later, he quits on the team. And I'm sure that there'll be more of that. I feel like there's a good portion of Senators fans, though, that are just sick and tired of it. Let's move on, get him out of here. Enough was enough. And it was kind of the same thought in the room, according to Elliot Friedman on 32 Thoughts. Don't know if you had a chance to listen to it yet. But today he said that one of the players reached out to him saying that the Wingmen podcast caused some problems in the locker room. You surprised to hear that at all?
No, not at all. I'm sure they didn't like having a Florida Panthers podcast enthusiast in their room every day talking about it. Yeah, it's not a shock. I think, I don't know, I don't want to be the one saying oh, I knew this was coming, but you know me, I was talking to you guys about it a lot behind the scenes that the noise around this guy just wasn't worth it anymore. And I do think it's important, though, to also say that this wasn't the Sens making this call. It was made for them. It was a trade request, as Steve Staios said, right after the playoff series, it sounded like. Brady kind of disputed that timeline a little bit, but anyway, it doesn't matter. Staios got the indication that he wanted out.
We're taking Brady at his word at this point?
No, obviously not, but it's the fact that it was done for them, I think, is a blessing in disguise. Now, we can talk about what the team on the ice looks like tomorrow, right? After all this, but I think big picture, the fact that this happened this way and not when he was a UFA, or it was the team having to be the ones to make the decision. I think from a PR standpoint, it could not have gone better for the Sens because we all got the pitchforks out right away, get this guy out of here, where it could have been a complete opposite reaction if it was, why are you moving on from another star player with no reason to do so? Like
the Mark Stone reaction, like the Erik Karlsson reaction. So, this was,
I don't know, but
this was more like Danny Heatley reaction when he
100%. And I don't think anyone saw that coming. I didn't. I thought if they moved him, it was going to be a very divisive thing that the franchise did, even if you wanted out or not. But the fact that it flipped immediately, I think the fact that it's Florida made that the case. And the fact that it was, we found out eventually it was that was the only team he was going to go to realistically. That really added to the animosity that he's going there with his brother. But I don't know about you, Ross, but I've been doing damage control, I feel with a lot of my, close friends, family members. My dad is more of a casual fan, but he's just saying, here we go again with the Karlsson and Stone thing. And I was pump the brakes here. This is not the same. This is a little brother going to run to his big brother. They're going to get all those headlines that Chipotle boys in Florida, get his bag, and they can deal with that. But this is not by any means anything close to what we've experienced as Sens fans in the past.
No, and he can go and they can sign autographs together and they'll charge less for Brady's than they will for Matthews. He's just going to be in his shadow the whole way through, even if they win. Unless Brady Tkachuk is winning a Conn Smythe trophy, he's going to be so far down the list of what people think. And my favorite is how Pat McAfee gets him on right after the trade, but he needs Big Brother there. And guess who Pat asked the first question to? Wasn't the guy who just got traded. It was Matthews. So if he didn't want the spotlight, I guess, hey, to each their own. But I just thought a lot different of Brady Tkachuk as a leader, and He completely let down everybody in Ottawa. It's going to be interesting to see the reaction when he comes back. Obviously, it's going to be a ton of hate, but I almost feel like ignoring him would be even better, but it's just not realistic to expect that to be the case. I think that the key is going to be the signs. I want to see some signs down at warm-ups. Quitter. Yep. You failed us. Yep. Worst era in Senators hockey outside of the expansion.
Well, actually,
they won 10 out of 84 games the first year. I don't know if this was worse than that.
But, Roz, I mean, the playoff drought was longer this time around than it was in the expansion era, if you can believe that. They had bad seasons. They were seasons in the expansion era, but the length of the drought and the terms or the seasons was longer under Brady Tkachuk. So I would argue that was the worst era of Sens hockey that he was part of. And then when you consider the times they made the playoffs, they won 2 games going down 3-0 both times. Not a lot to hang our hat on here.
But I thought Brady Tkachuk was a playoff guy.
Look,
once he gets there, it's going to be a problem.
He was great.
Yeah, he was great against Toronto for sure.
However,
he played a real team.
Not to pile on, he scored in all the losses. He had 4 goals. 1 was an empty netter. The other 3 came in all of the losses that they had in that series.
Now, one of them tied it in the third period, if I'm not mistaken, which is a big goal. Hey, Adam Gaudette tied a game in the third period too. You don't hear everybody patting him on the back for that. So anyways, that's enough about Brady, but it is interesting that Elliot Friedman did hear from a player. Do you want to take a guess of who that player was? I'd be curious.
Well, I don't want to speculate and guess, and I don't think it's fair to do this because he's the best player, but I think we can point to the lineup and maybe the lack of chemistry sometimes on the ice. And I don't think him and Tim Stützle saw eye to eye for a couple seasons. And I don't think that I'm trying to drum anything up, but if you watch, why weren't these guys playing together consistently at any point this season or even in years past? It wasn't to spread out the offense here. Those guys should be playing together if anything was perfect, and they weren't. I don't know, man. That seems like a bit of an issue. How good did Tim Stützle look without Brady Tkachuk last season in the lineup? That was his best stretch of the year. I don't think that they hated each other necessarily, but these guys went through a lot of losing together, and that creates animosity no matter how close you are off the ice. And then you add all this noise around Brady and getting all the attention and getting all the headlines and stuff as this team's superstar when we all know that's not the case. That can cause some issues, I'd imagine. So that leads me into also the big picture of the team going forward here. Like you said, we're going to move on from Brady Tkachuk. And I just think that Tim Stützle is going to pop. I really do. But one thing on the booing for Brady, I feel like the first couple games anyway, at least the first one for sure, is going to be real.
He's going to get it.
But as the years go on, because they're going to be in Ottawa every season with the Panthers, I think it'll dissipate, and then we'll start to ignore him because he won't be that big of a factor.
The division aspect is such an annoyance to it too, but whatever, neither here nor there. We're banking on that 2029 pick moving to 2030, becoming unprotected, and drafting Macklin Celebrini's younger brother, who is tearing up the U14 ranks. Jokes aside, though, it is time to move on. And with Tim Stützle taking on, I think we might even see, not that he didn't have personality before, but I think we might see Timmy come out of his shell even more and take the bull by the horns, which brings me to asking you who the next captain of the Ottawa Senators should be.
I'm partial. I think that you can't go wrong with Timmy or Sanderson, in my opinion, just what they both do on the ice, how good they are at leading what they specifically do for this team on the ice. But off the ice, I feel like I lean towards Stützle mainly because I feel like he's better with the media. I really do. He's a bit more candid. He's a bit more, he gives me an Alfie vibe. Stützle does, and he's younger, obviously, don't get me wrong, but don't you get a little bit of that European kind of, I don't know if it's sarcasm, if it's bluntness, it's
directiveness. Yeah,
it's direct. Very direct. I feel like Sanderson's very shy with the media, which is fine. I mean, it's
unless his goalie lets in 3 on 13 or 6 on 13 shots.
Yeah, maybe that's the case. But also, and I know that I don't actually think this matters, but optics wise, I feel like it would be really tough to just hand the C to another American. And I know that might be crazy.
Yeah, I don't buy that at all. I think that's overblown, and especially look, I think I'm 52% Tim Stützle, 45% Jake Sanderson, and 7% Thomas Chabot. Make it 7.2% Thomas Chabot, 72. But I also think that if the team wants it to be Thomas Chabot, fully on board with that. Just a complete lifer. And everybody talks about how Thomas Chabot's the guy who has everyone over for parties. He's the guy who organizes everything. Like he does have like a captain energy to him. So, I mean, we're not in the room, so we are obviously just speculating of who the C would look the best on. But in terms of like your day-to-day responsibilities as captain, I would totally understand if they go the direction of Thomas Chabot. Do you think that the fact refs probably don't love Tim Stützle that much plays any impact into it?
Huge impact for sure. Like that matters.
So?
And don't get me wrong. So I'll put it like this. How about this? If the American thing for me is not a cause for concern, like I said, I'd still give it to Sanderson. It's just a factor. That would be a question. If they have a press conference named Jake Sanderson, the next captain of the Ottawa Senators, one of the first questions is obviously going to be like, did you give any thought to that? They'll probably say no. But then with Tim Stützle, it's going to be the ref thing. Like, is he able to dial back some of the theatrics maybe on the ice,
and the emotions, like he gives it to refs.
And maybe that'll be fine if he's the captain. Like he hasn't had a letter on his jersey. Refs are stubborn and they don't talk to you sometimes if you don't have a letter on your jersey. So maybe even Timmy just having an A will have a better impact on that as he gets older, whatever. Yeah. But again, I don't think you can go wrong. And like you said, if they give it to Chabot, that's a room pick. And maybe some people will get mad about that. But I think that'd be great if what Friedman's reporting as well is true and that there was turmoil, like a best option is give it to a guy who everyone respects and loves. Thomas Chabot would be a good pick. And he's also been here forever, man. He's like, you watch Jordan Staal lift the cup for the Hurricanes and that feeling, like I'd love that for Thomas Chabot if everything goes according to plan, obviously, if he's the captain. But
totally. Plenty more to get to on the state of the Ottawa Senators. We're going to wrap up today's show with some NHL news and notes because one of the big stories could affect the Ottawa Senators, but in all likelihood, the three guys we named are going to wear letters next year because Claude Giroux remains unsigned. What is going on with that story? We'll break it down next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. The biggest stage in world soccer is here, and every match has the potential to have a memorable moment. How about last night? England up 2 goals, down a man. They hang on late, and they find their way into the quarterfinals. It makes tournament soccer so exciting from opening whistle to the final kick. And at FanDuel, they're giving you another reason to stay locked in to every match with every goal pays. Bet on a match and get a bonus bet for every goal scored in that match. More goals means more bonus bets. All you have to do is turn on your token. So go check it out today. FanDuel, from the opening whistle to the final kick. The quarterfinals are coming up in a little bit. It's still the round of 16, and you can find all of the amazing benefits over at FanDuel. Let there be goals on FanDuel. Head to FanDuel.com to get started now. Today's episode is also brought to you by our friends over at the GLEBE Central Pub. The GCP is the perfect place to watch all the matches in this great world tournament soccer, and you can do it at 779 Bank Street. When you go there, let them know that Locked On Senator sent you. The GLEBE Central Pub's also got amazing food. The smash burgers, I delete those like I've never eaten before. And then you get the nachos for the table. Every Monday, it's wing night. So if you want to go today and get a great deal on wings, head to the GLEBE Central Pub. And you also go there for great experiences. The barn is rocking for the Canada games, for the England games. It's unbelievable. Obviously, Canada's out now, but those England games especially, it just has such an amazing atmosphere inside the GLEBE Central Pub. We're counting down the days till the Sens season. Get that shuttle going. It's a great place to go. Walking distance from Lansdowne, so if you're going shopping or hanging out in the Glebe, make sure to go to the GLEBE Central Pub. The vibes are free at the GCP. Welcome back, Locked On Senators, your team every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Local experts on the biggest stories 5 days a week. I'm alongside Jack Richardson, who you can follow on social media. His handle is in the link below. And Jack, we haven't talked to you since William Eklund became an Ottawa Senator either, talking about getting someone for Tim Stützle for years, speed, skill, creativity. How do you think the combination will go? And having a guy who's basically Timmy's age, and having that same core age continue despite Brady leaving.
Yeah, they definitely got younger up front overall, and I know that they bring in Burakovsky, which we might hit on as well, but Eklund, I think, is a great addition. He's at a reasonable cap hit here for the next few years, but on the ice specifically, like on paper, everything can seem great or not seem great sometimes, but the more you read up and the more I watch on William Eklund, like this is a guy who sort of got, I think, lost in the shuffle in San Jose with all their top picks coming in, right? Like Will Smith and Celebrini had their chemistry going, and I think they wanted to spread it out a little bit. So Eklund didn't totally get those top end looks, but he's still a top 10 pick from a few years ago. Like he's a guy that they identified as maybe they could build their franchise around. This is before they got Celebrini and all those other high picks that they were able to draft Eklund. So he was keyed in on as one of the main pieces for the Sharks rebuild. And it's because he's a skilled winger who can skate, man. And like, I think once we see him play with pace with Tim Stützle and kind of join him in transition, maybe even transport the puck for Timmy, which he's never had on his line. I think that'll be a huge difference. And it might take some time for them to get used to each other. I know the goal totals for Eklund haven't been super high, but let's not forget that Timmy can put the puck in the net too. Like he led this team in goals before. He's got the single highest season goal total in the past however long since
in the Brady Tkachuk era, you could say.
There we go. He's their best goal scorer overall. So if Timmy can find some space and not have to be the one creating that space, that's what they need. So Eklund might not have been the sexiest pick, like let's say for a top end player to play with Timmy, but he's a guy who can grow, and he's a reasonable cost, which lets you do flexibility to do other things on your roster. There's a lot to like about this addition, on top of getting a couple other prospects for the system that needed it before the draft, obviously. But I like that quick pivot from Staios a lot.
Yeah, don't say he's not the sexiest pickup too loudly, because Sharks fans treat this guy like he's prime Wade Red and Mike Fisher back in the day. They love this guy, and it's hard not to when you look at how he can fly up the ice and how he plays on the wing. And I was looking at it because I'm like, man, like you'd like a few more goals. Only 15 this year. His career high is 17. He's played 3 full NHL seasons, and I mean he's put up 50 plus points in the last 2 years. But I was looking into it, and he never really got an opportunity to play on a line with Macklin Celebrini. He was mostly playing with Alex Wenberg and Tyler Toffoli as a second line for the Sharks. Like, no disrespect to those guys. They're fine, but neither of those players are a dynamic creator like Tim Stützle or obviously like Macklin Celebrini. So really curious to see how this all plays out when he does get that role, because there's no chance. Like, there's a lot in flux with this Senators roster, but you got to think Tim Stützle and William Eklund are going to be attached at the hip on day one of camp.
Yeah, for sure. And I just think that the reason Eklund probably wasn't paired with Celebrini that often is because he can transport the puck, and that Sharks team didn't have a ton of guys who could do that either. And they had to spread it out when they had 2 guys who could distribute it and move it and get up the ice and play with pace. You know, like they needed a guy on the wing that could do that away from Celebrini. And it's not to say that these guys are going to be attached to the hip all the time, Stützle and Eklund, especially with Travis Green. I mean, that guy puts the lines in a blender all the time. I just think that on paper, that fit looks really good. And then you throw Batherson in the mix. Like, I think that could be a legit top line if Eklund can kind of, even if he stays what he is, Ross, like a 50-point, 60-point guy is pretty good for a top line winger on this team, I think, too.
He's putting up 60 plus next year. I'll go out and guarantee
Okay,
that.
But
I think 70 is more realistic.
Can I rejumble something then maybe? Like, what if he gets 55 points, but he's got 30 goals and he's more of a Cy Young guy? Like, I think we'd look at that as a bonus of a season. And then Timmy gets 85 points. We're not going to be like, point totals are eye popping and stuff, but I want to know how they get there. Like, how are they getting those goals? Timmy had a great season this past year. He had 30 something goals, but how did those goals happen? I feel like half of them happened in tight games in the third period, and he came up clutch. That to me is a great season for Tim Stützle. Whereas if he got 40 with a bunch of empty netters, I'm not as excited. Although the stats at the end of the day are important. I'd like Eklund to be pushing 50 points for sure, closer to a point per game. He'll probably see top power play time, which he wasn't getting in San Jose as well. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that fit. And again, just getting another Swede on the wing. There's a big, pretty important Swede that's behind the bench every night for the Ottawa Senators that I think will be really fun to play for William Eklund.
Did you see that TikTok that William Eklund did in 2024? He was ranking European legends, and he got to Alfie, and he's like, and I forget where exactly he put him. I think it was in the middle of the pack there. Yeah. It was actually 7th on his top 10, and he had put Pavel Datsyuk 6. So I don't know if we need to rejig William Eklund's thought process. He probably didn't watch Pavel Datsyuk in his prime, but you probably put him a little bit higher. I think he was saving the top ones, and he got screwed. He left one open till the end, and it was Milan Hajduk. Good player, don't get me wrong, but I don't think Milan Hajduk's a better player than Nick Lidstrom or Daniel Alfredsson. But it was funny because in the note, when he said 7, he's like, I want to put him higher. So now he gets to see him a little bit higher than him, one step up on the bench behind him. But look, there's another winger, Jack, on the Ottawa Senators that Steve Staios has invested draft capital to pick him up and a $4+ million contract in Fabian Zetterlund. And if you look at it for San Jose, the last year that they played together, they played a lot together and they did very well. In 167 minutes together with Mikael Granlund as their center, the goals were 8-3 for the last place San Jose Sharks, with Eklund on one wing and Zetterlund on the other. Do you think there's a chance that they move, because they like Batherson with Dylan Cousins too on that second top 6 line? Do you think there's a realistic chance that we could see a Stützle, Eklund, Zetterlund line to start training camp?
I think they roll in with that top line, and then they go Greg, Cousins, Batherson.
Yeah.
After Greg's suspension. I keep forgetting he's suspended. So maybe that's why they got so many forwards for the first 2 games. But I think that top line. So I want to go back to what I was saying about Tkachuk. What line worked really well this season? They had a lot of options, but as a top line, Brady, Timmy, and Zetterlund had a couple games this season where they looked elite this past year, but then they stopped putting them together. And there was a reason. We don't know why. I don't know why, but it wasn't because other lines weren't struggling or whatever. They just stopped playing together. And I think it went back to the 2 top guys maybe not seeing eye to eye. And maybe this is all kind of coming to light here. And the reason I'm pointing that out is because that bumps Zetterlund down, because I don't think Batherson can play the left side properly. That's another right winger. You got Giroux as well, who could maybe doesn't fit as well with him. Like, I think the fit there with Zetterlund is to be that complementary goal scoring piece. It was right around Christmas last year when Zetterlund got hot. He was playing with Stützle and Tkachuk, I think, around that time. Anyway, it just didn't last a long time. I thought that actually worked well. The fact that he's going to be having a guy on his line now, maybe in Eklund, that he's familiar with and had his best season with, plus Tim Stützle in the middle of the ice and not Alexander Wenberg in San Jose. Like, there's a lot to be excited about with that potential top line. And I think it all comes down, though, to Tim Stützle. And we think the world of the German, and he had a fantastic year last season. I expect nothing less from Tim Stützle going into this season, especially after a disappointing playoff series. He should be motivated, and he'll drag those guys into fights if they're not having a great game on the wings.
So way too early line combos. I think we're going Tim Stützle, William Eklund, Fabian Zetterlund, Ridley Gregg, Dylan Cousins, Drake Batherson, Warren Fogle, Shane Pinto, Michael Amadio, and then you got Stephen Halliday, Nick Cousins, and Andre Burakovsky on the 4th line.
Look, man, if Burakovsky can give you what Zetterlund gave you in 4th line minutes, which is a potential goal scorer, like you're not throwing him out there relying on him to score goals. I know the cap hit is pretty high, but if he can get some solid depth scoring out of Burakovsky with Stephen Halliday, the disher, throwing it over to Burakovsky, I don't know. Like, I'm very skeptical about where Burakovsky is going to fit in the lineup, but I know his skill set, I think, can really complement a couple of these centermen. Like, I even think this is a wild one, but there's so many different combos now without that top premier winger that they had in Tkachuk, that, like, what if Burakovsky and Dylan Cousins hit it off? They can both kind of move up the ice a little bit. Like, there's options, but it's also not, we don't have to figure out the next 5 years. They didn't sign Burakovsky to a 5-year extension. It's just this one season. It's a pretty low risk play, in my opinion. That's why I wasn't banging the drum that the sky is falling about that pickup, because I think it just gives them a little bit more flexibility. If him or Fogle are better than the other, just play the other one, and then you move on from the other one in the offseason. It's pretty simple from that standpoint. But yeah, I like that top 6, what you just kind of drew up there. If Ridley Gregg,
a lot more speed. And Ridley, like, to me, and we can get to this later in the summer, we'll have you back on and we can discuss like who needs to have the biggest improvement year over year. Like, it's time for Ridley Gregg to pop a little bit. Like 3 straight years with 13 goals. Like, he's got to be over 15 at least this year. I think that would be extremely reasonable. The one thing about Burakovsky, though, he plays with pace all over the ice. He was in the 80th percentile in 18 to 20 mile per hour speed burst this past season. So he doesn't have the top end speed. Like, he was 55th percentile in 22 mile an hour burst, but in that 18 to 20 range, he's humming around the ice at a pretty good speed. One guy we didn't mention in that forward lineup is Claude Giroux. Let's discuss the unrestricted free agent who seems like he's waiting on something else to happen, huh? That's next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Odoo. Running a business shouldn't feel like you're trying to connect a bunch of systems that were never designed to work together. One app for accounting, another for inventory, another for sales, and somehow none of them talk to one another. That's where Odoo comes in. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that brings every part of your business together in one powerful platform. From sales to accounting to inventory and marketing, everything works in one place, helping your team move faster, stay more organized, and focus on growing the business instead of managing software. The best organizations know that success isn't just about talent, it's about having everyone working towards the same goal. And that's true in sports just like it is in business. You talk about business, you talk about hockey, recent moves for the Ottawa Senators, like getting more speed into the lineup, that's so that you can have the system work more effectively. So just like in hockey, in business, you need to have the organization, and great organizations win because operations matter. And that's why you should get Odoo. So why don't you go try it for free today? Yeah, you heard that right. Free today at odoo.com/lockedon. That's odoo.com/lockedon. Welcome back, Locked On Senators, your team every day. I'm Ross Levitan. Pilsy's on his honeymoon, and we got the great Jack Richardson from the Postcast crew sitting in here chatting about the Ottawa Senators offseason, which is somewhat incomplete, Jack, because Steve Staios has made it clear they would love to have Claude Giroux back in the mix. Before we get to what the heck is going on with the current situation for Claude Giroux, we got to know, like, is there a spot for him on this team? The way we just rattled off the lines, we didn't even get. I mean, McDermott's a whatever. You put him on waivers if you have to, but like they have 12 forwards on NHL contracts. And if anything, I would say that the competition in camp would be for the fourth line center role, even though Halliday's a one-way deal. Could he be the 13th forward like he was a lot of time last year? Yeah, but like it's not that they have a spot really on the wing that you could see, oh yeah, put him right there.
Yeah, I don't know where Giroux would fit. And I think that if he was making like $1 million, $2 million even without those bonuses, you can maybe stomach it and just be like, all right, let's figure it out. But I'm not sitting here saying they need this guy or else this team is cooked. Like, I just think that if they have him, I think Green will use him too much and it'll be an overusage situation. His deployment's gone down over the last 2 seasons, and I think he was serviceable with what he was doing. But again, we talked about this team getting faster, getting more speed in that top 6, specifically around Tim Stützle. Giroux doesn't bring that. He brings a lot of other stuff that's important. But is it maybe time for Shane Pinto and Dylan Cousins and Ridley Gregg and Stützle to another extent to step up in those roles as the centerman you want taking that face off in the last minute? Because Giroux was great on the draw, but this whole team was too. Timmy took huge strides in the face-off dot. They were the best face-off team in the league. Giroux was part of that, but pointing all that out because I'm preparing for him leaving. I think that will probably be what happens because of their lack of space, because of the lack of fit, and also maybe he just wants a better contract. Who knows what they're offering him? We'll probably find out after, but I don't know about you, but I just don't see the fit on paper, on the ice. I don't know if he can be a winger on that shutdown line with Amadio and Pinto full time because they use those guys against the top players in the league every night. I don't know if Giroux can keep up with that for a full game. And he's still got game, obviously. It's just with what this team's doing, the way things have gone the last few seasons, maybe that's part of the shakeup they need is just get faster outright and worry about the rest later. That's kind of how I see it. Like, I don't want him taking reps from a guy like Stephen Halliday in offensive situations, really.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, he's so good on that second power play unit too. Like,
yeah,
I would love to have Claude Giroux back. Don't get me wrong, but there is one thing that, and I don't want this to come off as a hot take. I genuinely am curious your thoughts. If Brady's podcast and everything was a problem in the locker room, like, is that not on G kind of to like settle things down a little bit?
Well, we think so because he's the oldest, but you got to remember he hasn't been here that long. So you'd think that would get to guys like Chabot and Stützle to an extent, and Sanderson, right? Like, I guess Giroux and Sanderson have been here the same amount of time, but I think that his experience and age matters for leadership, but
just feels like he's such a no nonsense guy when he like talks to media. You think he just be like, yo, Brady, like, what the hell are you doing, man?
Well, and it happened anyway. And I think this is the thing when we say the word leadership, like it's this big overarching thing. And I don't want to come off like I'm just ripping Claude Giroux, because again, I respect what he's done. He's the best signing in team history, in free agency for the Ottawa Senators, no doubt in my mind. But again, like Giroux's not a guy who's won a bunch of cups who came in here after. Like, he's searching for that cup. And I'm not trying to say that he shouldn't come here for that, but his leadership over the years has been good because he's played so long. But he also hasn't won. He's had one deep run when he's a rookie. But if he had been on deep playoff runs here and there, then I think we'd have to give a lot more credit to that leadership. But I'm sorry, but I'm not going to spend $5 million of this cap hit on Claude Giroux at 38 years old with his leadership, because it hasn't led anywhere right now. This team needed a shakeup after they got swept. And as much as it might sound crazy from a marketing standpoint, maybe getting rid of your captain and another leader is a way of doing that and changing the tone around the team. Whether it's for better or worse, no one knows. It's not a crystal ball over here. But I'm just saying I can see them drawing a hard line on the contract and being like, look, like, you can come back for the sunset hometown discount if you want, like a Joe Thornton or Jason Spezza did in Toronto all those years ago. But we're not signing you to a market value contract because they want to move in a different direction. And it's pretty clear that's what they want to do on the ice up front.
And it feels like this will be Claude Giroux's last season. Bruce Garriock in his article last week saying that he's really taking his time on this decision, knowing that it could be the last one. Like, to me, the best sense would be start with Ottawa. And if it's not going the direction you think it should be, hey, have your pick at the deadline and go join a contender, go on a run, that sort of thing. And even just for the family dynamic, like being away just from the deadline till the end of the season versus having to move his family and then move back afterwards, whatever the case is, maybe I'm making a bigger deal out of that. But sounds like Philadelphia, Toronto making a push, which is like they just signed like 45 bottom six forwards. So I don't know what the hell is going on in that situation for Claude Giroux, but really feels like it might be coming down. And even like what I was really a bit taken aback was like Edmonton made a push, they're out, sounds like. And it's like, if you were going to try to go and get that cup, like going and joining McDavid and Draisaitl, seems like it could have been a direction you'd respect if that's the direction that he wanted to go. I would also respect it if he goes back to Philly. Yep. I'm not expecting, if Erik Karlsson comes back to Ottawa, Penguins fans to be up in arms. What the hell? Right?
No.
We got to enjoy Claude Giroux for the years that we did. But his legacy is going to be with the Philadelphia Flyers, not the Pittsburgh Penguins, dominating the Penguins maybe in certain seasons. But look, I would love to have Claude Giroux back. I understand if it's a different direction that he wants to go, but it's weird how it's shaking out, because there was a report from Throw Things at the Wall and See What Sticks reporter David Pagnotta from Daily Faceoff and the Fourth Period, but he said Giroux signing with Philly. And you guys had heard some whispers of that potentially at a golf tournament from one of his buddies. But at the same time, it's like, what the hell? Nothing since then? That was a week ago. What the heck is going on? And Philly makes the offer sheet, which is outrageously funny. Huge signing bonus, $18 million contract plus for Leo Carlsson will make him, whether he stays in Anaheim or goes to Philly, he will be the highest paid player in the league. But Bruce also said in his article, like, Giroux's kind of waiting to see how that plays out. I don't know which way makes him more or less likely to sign in Philly, whether they get him or they don't.
It has to be a money thing. It has to be, they can sign him to this amount. If Carlson's signed to Philly, they can probably not offer him as much as they wanted. And if if Anaheim does match, then all of a sudden Philly's got all this space. They can probably give him a bit more cash. I think that's all it is. I don't think that getting or not getting Karlsson is going to influence his decision to play with the Flyers. That's my sense. I think he's going to go to Philly, to be honest. Like, all the reasons we just listed, all of the lineup kind of, positions that he could be in. And I think going to Philly is familiar. It's a great place for him to retire. Again, that would certainly not be, I think I'm going to win a cup this season in Philly, not in Ottawa, by any means. I think it'll just be clearly I want to go here, make a good amount of money to finish my career and go somewhere I'm familiar and loved.
And he's boys with Danny Briere too, the GM there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that'd be great. It'd be great to see Giroux back in Philly because honestly, I'm sure seeing them in the playoffs again was pretty cool for him. He cares about that market. They like him there, which is something because Philly doesn't like a lot of athletes if you haven't won anything. So I think I would like to see him go there, to be honest, if he's going to go anywhere. Edmonton would have been cool. If he goes to Toronto, oh boy.
Dead.
Oh boy. Yeah. Different vibe. It was same as Montreal, but it'd be curious why he would go to Toronto and not Montreal, to be honest. Maybe the Habs aren't interested. I don't know, man. Like, there's a lot, but again, we're talking about a 38-year-old Claude Giroux. This isn't the summer of 2022, like a couple of years ago. He's not the same player, unfortunately, although he is still a gamer, and I would miss him. I don't want this to sound like I want him gone outright, but the way things are shaping up, if he's not going to take a pretty significant discount, I don't really see a reason for them to bring him back.
Dude, that first season in Ottawa was sick. Like, he set a career high in goals, 35 tucks. Dude, that's 2 off of Brady Tkachuk's career high, and he did it when he was 35.
It was his second best goal scoring season of his career.
It was the best.
Was it the best for sure?
Yeah.
Wow.
34 with Philly. The year he had 102 points and 68 apples, 34 goals. 35 goals his first year in Ottawa was the most goals he's had in a single season and the 5th most points he's had in a single season in his entire career. This is like the stats guy in me that G does not give 2 cares about. But I think it's kind of cool he finished his career in Philly, exactly 1,000 games, exactly 900 points. Come on, come back to Ottawa, G. We could use the leadership and the best face-off man in the National Hockey League. What else on your mind with the Ottawa Senators, Jack? How are you feeling about the team overall? Like, we did our grades on Friday. What would you assign a grade to for the entire offseason?
I think with the context of their captain requesting a trade, seemingly out of the blue, like, again, it wasn't out of the blue for the team. They obviously knew these rumblings were happening within their own locker room. But given that curveball.
How pissed do you think Stützle was that he had to go all the way to New Jersey to learn about that? Like,
probably, yeah, big time.
Hope he spent a couple nights in Manhattan, had a good time.
Yeah, I hope he didn't stay in Jersey.
On pleasure, eh? Like like Dorio told us with Vegas.
I think I would give them a B-, maybe C+, probably, just because they didn't make that home run. But again, like, we've sat here after home run off seasons and then been so disappointed. Like, isn't it nice maybe to have a little bit of a chip on our shoulder and not be sure about the team? Whereas we've gone into every other off season being like, wow, this seems so much better. And then they fall flat on their face in November every season. Like, maybe the chip on their shoulder is what they need. So I'd give them a B-, I think overall. Yeah. Talk myself into
C+.
Yeah, like, I think that's a fair range, but I'm also not.
I went C- without the draft, though. Like, I really like their strategy at their draft.
All of a sudden, Ross, they've drafted 4 players in the first round the last 3 years. Just after all that whirlwind, we lost that in the shuffle. They've got some prospects in the pipeline now. I'm big on Jack Richardson. We haven't touched on the blue line, which I think is elite. Like, that is their strength. We've had a lot of questions about the forward group. This is on my mind here, Ross. I think we are very rightfully so concerned about the lack of talent on the wings on this team, which is fair. But the strength has never been how elite their forward group was. It was deep. It got deeper with Stützle's moves over the past couple seasons, but they were never built on a top line, top heavy team like a Montreal or like some of these other teams in the division that we were comparing them to. They are a deep team that can score on all 4 lines. All 3 pairs, all 6 defensemen can contribute in their own way. They're all young, up and coming, finding chemistry. And then when he's on, which is a huge question mark again going in, it's up to him to figure that out. Linus Ullmark is a top goaltender in this league, and we saw it in the playoffs. So I'm sitting here not worried. I'm curious how they're going to look. I think that the speed added to Tim Stützle's wing is what I wanted to see the most, and they did that, got there in a different way. So I'm not pressing the panic button by any means, but I'll spread some positivity because I don't think this team is cooked by any means, and I'm excited to see how they look in the fall.
Love it. We're excited to get your thoughts closer to the start of the NHL season. We'll get you on for a couple Ring of Honors too. We're starting that next week. You got dummy last year. You need to be better 2 years ago, maybe. And I think it's time for you to regroup, get your prep right, and be ready to go because we got some great topics coming this year in the Ring of Honor that will start next Friday. Another note, because we rolled right from Friday into today's show, this is the start of our off-season schedule, which means we're still giving you 3 podcasts a week every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday throughout the rest of July, all of August, and I believe just the first week after Labor Day, we'll be back for 5 shows a week. Hey, we're hosting the rookie tournament. Jack, are you going to make the trip? I hope so, to the Slush Puppy Center.
Yeah, absolutely. That's not even a trip for me. I'm back in Ottawa, Ross. I'm within a drive of everywhere. It's great. I'm back home.
Got to cross the bridge, though.
That actually is a bit of a hike from Barhaven.
That's definitely a hike.
On a personal note here, Ross, just ending up, I am thrilled to be back in Ottawa. Like you guys saw me in March. That was right around the time I was starting to get the legs going for moving back here. This city's the best. It's the best in the summer. It was a boiling pot last week, but it's just the best being back in Ottawa. Like, I don't have to travel to come home to do stuff around the Sens anymore, which I'm not trying to gloat. I'm not trying to.
I know. I'm sitting here just like the rage is coming out. I got a 10-year plan. I just set up a 10-year plan.
Good. Yeah. We got to get the family here for when the girls are in school and stuff. But yeah. Anyway, it's great to be back. So yes, I'll make it to the rookie tournament, the Slush Puppy.
Yeah, my plan, and there's a lot of tiers to it, but one of the tiers is picking like the best times to come home. Canada Day weekend, late August, early September, like May, where it's still a little chillier in Winnipeg, and you go there, get the patios out a couple weeks earlier. Yeah, we got the long-term vision set up for that, but I'm so happy that you're home, man. It's there's nowhere like Ottawa, and that's also where it's like, dude, you see William Eklund's interview in a Swedish newspaper, said he was shocked to learn about the deal. And when he found out it was Ottawa, he was so excited. Like, come on, like, give me more guys that want to be here. No more Brady Tkachuks or trade. It doesn't work as well to say it, but it spells out so well. Trady quitter, but you do the TK at the start of quitter instead of the Q. Yeah. I can't believe that guy. Anyways, no, we're on to William Eklund. We're on to the next era of Sens hockey. And hey, if Linus Ullmark can be a top 10 goalie in the league, all bets are off on what the Senators could accomplish. But do you think, last question from me here, Jack, do you think there's one more move this summer from the Ottawa Senators? I mean, Stales alluded to the fact that maybe they didn't do something else because they're saving a spot for Claude Giroux. Like, do you think that could be a domino where something else happens if or when Giroux signed somewhere else?
Yeah, I mean, I believe him in the sense that they were in on every big thing, and there were some big things that didn't happen. So if, we talked about the Ducks and their situation, and there's a lot of moving pieces there, maybe in Philly, some moving pieces, like if they do end up getting Carlson. So I think they want to be open to options, which is why they have cap space, right? And I don't think there's another move coming. I think there's a negotiation thing with Giroux. They'll probably roll into next season with this much cap space, gives them flexibility to do stuff. I'm going to go to this forward group. I'd rather them make a swing once they've seen this team on the ice without Brady Tkachuk and they know exactly what they need at the deadline type of thing, or mid-season when they're making a push, hopefully, than do it right now and kind of hope all the pieces fit. Like, they didn't make any long-term commitments here that have any sort of risk, right? Like, Burakovsky's underwhelming, but he could be gone next season if he's that bad. And
for sure,
I think that's a bonus. So I'd like to see them do something mid-season maybe, and not necessarily this summer.
And for the first time in forever, the Sens have the full complement of valuable draft picks. They don't have a 5th, 6th, or 7th this year. Who cares? But they've got 2 seconds this upcoming draft. They have all their first, plus Florida's 2029 first, all their own seconds, all their own thirds, all their own fourths. Like,
and they drafted a bunch of guys. And they drafted a bunch of guys all of a sudden. We were talking, they've got 4 first-round picks in their cupboard now in the last 3 drafts. So, like, things are coming together, whether the value of those guys is high enough or whatever. But like I said, I think that blue line's elite. Carter Yakimchuk is I think going to pop. You guys know I'm Jack Richardson over here. I think he had a great showing when he was up. He's an X factor for that blue line to make it truly like deep at all levels. Like I there's reason for positivity. We're okay here, Ross. We're all good. It's gonna be different. We'll see how it plays out in the training camp.
Taking your best positive Pillsy impression to wrap up today's show. We love that, Jack. Always appreciate your insight. You're tweeting every single day. We see you getting new thought into your mind about the Ottawa Senators. So everyone's already following you there. Jack Richardson, but with no A in the Richardson name. All right. Okay. That was a great show. Thanks for doing this, Jack. Really appreciate it. We'll do it again later on this summer, and get your studying hat on for the Ring of Honor, because I don't want to get some secondhand embarrassment from you again this year. All right, for Jack Richardson, I'm Ross Levitan. Thanks so much for liking, watching, listening, and engaging with the show. This has been another edition of Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.